Start recording. Fine. So as committed, what we are going to do today, it is module number 3, something which we are going to discuss on the virtual machine. Okay, and do not get confused, guys, on the module number 2, 3, because it's keep on changing. Okay, so this module contain all about the virtual machine, which is the compute part. Okay. Now, under this, we will be talking about the deployment of the virtual machine, the planning, creating the virtual machine availability, extensions, and the operationals, and as well as the troubleshooting part. We'll deploy the Linux virtual machine. We'll create the availability set. We'll talk about extensions. We'll talk about encryptions, and so on and so forth. Okay. So that would be a part of your module. Okay, please be aware that the network is something that we should be covering it first, ideally. But we are doing the virtual machine because we wanted to understand, we wanted to get into this topic more closely. But having said that, I will definitely walk you through the network part as well. Together, as I confirmed yesterday also, compute and network contribute close to 60 to 70%, and 70% is the passing mark. Okay, so these two modules are going to take a lot of time, but nonetheless, we will be trying to break down the things so that everyone can understand easily. All right, so as part of the virtual machine planning is at most important. Okay, so what all things that we have to consider? So as when we do the planning, this is the planning checklist. Whenever you're trying to deploy the virtual machine, ensure that these are the bullet points need to kept in your mind. Start with the network. Network, as I told, is at most important, right? Because you do not want network is a kind of logical boundary that you are creating for the virtual machine. Because once you deploy the network, this network should not be conflict with some other network. That network could be your on-prem, could be on Azure. So you have to be very much careful. That's what your network comes, designing of the network comes a first priority. Then name of the VM. In an organization, we define the naming convention, right? There's a nomenclature for the VM that also has to be defined properly. In our test environment, in the lab environment, right now we are giving any XYZ name. That should not be the case in the prod environment. For instance, if you're deploying some, virtual machine for any project, so it should be like if you're deploying name of the VM. Suppose you're deploying for, say we have a project called MGIC. Okay, MGIC. If I'm deploying any, or if I get a requirement to deploy any virtual machine for this project, so I'll be saying that, okay, first of all, what is the VM version? Is it Linux or Windows? So if it's a Windows, I'll say WIN. Okay, and then followed by project name MGIC, and then followed by location. If it is a Bangalore, I'll say BNG. If it is a New York or Santa Clara, I'll say SGC, whatever it is. So it makes sense, right? By seeing the virtual machine, the naming convention, you should be able to determine that, okay, this is the VM that is being used for so and so purpose. And this is the VM being used for the specific project team. And then you will be, furthermore, you will be with the host name, you will be mapping the owner name, right? If you're maintaining that, who is the owner, and on a time comes, you need to repeatedly, you need to keep on changing the owner name. I mean, that is also one of the asset inventory part that you need to look into, right? Thereafter, we talk about decide the location of the VM, right? This is also very much important from the cost prospect. Yesterday, while calculating the cost, we have seen that, location directly impact the cost of the VM. So whenever you're trying to deploy the virtual machine, two things you need to consider: how the people should be connecting to this VM, how many users, employees concurrently going to connect this VM, what is the best location for the users. Is it like globally they will be accessing it, or for any specific reason majority of the employees or the users are going to connect? Depending on, you should be deciding the location of the VM.
So the location should be closer to where I am is better, right? That
Yes, it is not where you are. It's like how the people are connecting. For instance, the company can have the multiple head office, multiple footprints across the globe. So wherever you get a requirement for the VM for specific to, say in the Japan, you need one VM where the Japanese people are going to connect, or the East Asia users are going to connect. So of course you will be not deploying this VM in the US or some other region which are very far away from the audience, target audience. Of course, at the same time, if you have some VM or some application which you're going to host on the VM is going to be global, then you will be calculating on somewhere where the bandwidth should be very much, uh, you know, very much approachable for all the users across the globe, somewhere central, the central locations. So these are the deciding factors for deploying the VM on a specific location. Then you will be selecting the size of the VM. You will be determining that size, what is the size of the VM? It should not be under optimized, whenever you deploy or whenever you choose the VM, it should be optimized correctly. Of course, there's a provision to resizing the VM, but yes, at the time of deployment, you have to consider what should be the series of the VM that is much needed for your project or for your deployment or for your work solution. Then, of course, you need to understand the pricing model. The pricing model, why we are saying it, because directly location, size, the kind of VM that you're going to deploy, is it Windows or of Linux? All of these things directly matters for your cost, right? Then consider storage, storage for the VM. Probably you need more storage. By default, whenever you deploy the virtual machine, the size of C drive, you know, usually it will be 126 to 127 GB. Okay, either 126 or 127 GB. And you will be also having something called temp drive, D drive, which is temp drive. And the size of this temp drive, usually it will be 14 to 16 GB. Okay. So now this is your operating system. This is your temp drive. Temp drive, will understand that temp drive is something Microsoft is using for its internal purpose. So we should not store anything on the D drive temp. So if you need more storage, you need to attach the storage. You need to create the storage and need to attach it. Then select the operating system. Now, depending on the application which you're going to host on this specific virtual machine, accordingly, you need to install, configure the operating system. Okay, so these are a couple of things that we need to consider while deploying the virtual machine.
Hey, AJ, sorry. What is the name of the VM? I missed it.
No, it is like depends on the how you're designing, there is a nominee culture for any VM, right? Nominee culture that we follow. There is a naming convention for the virtual machine. Just given one of the example. For instance, your project name is MGIC. Okay. Now you got a requirement to deploy one of the virtual machine for MGIC project. So you will be defining that, okay, for instance, you're going to deploy the virtual machine that is going to be Windows virtual machine. Okay, so you will be saying that the naming convention should be like something similar to that. The type of operating system followed by your project name and then the location. Like that you will be defining. Of course, there could be a different nominee culture for every organization, but this I've chosen because this is what we actually follow in our organization.
Yeah, got it.
Location and pricing, again, we have already seen that directly impact. Now coming to the sizing. Okay, this is the sizing, what all the size we have it in Microsoft. So it is start with the A series, entry level for the dev and test environment. Then we have the BS series for economically bursting. Then for general purpose, we will be using something called D series. If you want to use any protection data, then you can go for DC series, then compute optimize F series. Like that, you have a different series for deploying the virtual machine. These are the different series. So if I take you directly to the Microsoft portal, here it is.
Oh.
Yes, please mute yourself if you're not speaking. Okay, so it is start with the A series. As you can see, example of such A series, and it is going to be retired on 31st August 2024. Example of such VM could be deployment for test server, low traffic web server, small to medium database, or POC, any code repository. Okay, then we also have something called BS series, and these are the different use cases. For the general purpose, B series we have it, and it is start with, you can see the CPU, memory, and temporary storage able to meet the requirement for the most production workload. So such example could be here, many enterprise grade application, e-commerce system, web front, desktop virtualization solutions, your mid-range database, application server, gaming server, media server, and so on. The E series start with memory application. For instance, wherever you need more memory. It's like heavy in memory applications such as SAP HANA. Okay, these VMs are configured with high memory to core ratio, which make them well suited for the memory intensive enterprise application. Okay, now the VM can start from 2 to 64 CPUs and 16 GB to 432 GB of RAM. Okay, this is the configuration, maximum configuration for the E series. It goes EV third generation, you can say, and then EV4. This is the configuration, and here it can goes up to 504 gigabyte of RAM. Similarly, you have E5, ED5, and it goes up to 670 GB of RAM. Okay, so like that, you have a different E series. Under the E series, again, different versions are there. So depending on what you're going to deploy or what is the requirement of your application on the VM, you can choose. Example, as you already mentioned, SAP HANA. Okay, SAP application layer, memory intensive applications, and so on. Then you also have F series. Okay, F series, higher CPU to memory ratio. Okay, they are equipped with the 2 GB RAM and 60 GB of local SSD per CPU core. Okay, and here example could be here batch processing, web servers, analytics, and gaming. Then we have something called G series. For this purpose, they can use it. L series, M series, MV series, N series are also there. Now, you must be wondering that, okay, do we need to memorize this, sizing of the virtual machine from the exam prospect? And answer is no. You do not need to, but only consider the example. Okay, these examples from the exam prospect also, they will be giving you one scenario-based question or a kind of example that, okay, you wanted to deploy some SAP HANA. Okay, SAP HANA. Now, in this series, what would be? They will be giving you option 1, 2, 3, 4, something. Out of these VM series, which one will be well suited for your deployment? So that's the reason I use this website here, where you can see the example workload, for each and every series example. That is something you need to pay attention.
Can you post this URL on the chat?
Yeah, sure.
And like if we have like select if I'm creating any virtual machine and I'm selecting any series and like by mistake, and later on if I want to
Yeah,
change
yeah.
that series,
We
can
can. That is resizing of the virtual machine, and we will be doing it as part of this practical also. Great. Okay, so these are the different sizing of the virtual machine. Now, virtual machine disk. This is something that we will be doing it in a while. Now, let's go to the practical section and deploy today. Windows, we have already deployed. Let's today deploy the Linux virtual machine, and then we'll come back again to do some more theoretical part. Okay. So I'll take you to here. So how many of us have exposure on the Linux? Anyone work on the Linux? Okay.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I work on Linux.
Sorry?
I work on Linux.
Okay, great. So today we are going to deploy the virtual machine, and we'll understand that what are the ways of connecting virtual machine of Linux. Okay. So let's go ahead and deploy the virtual machine here. Create. And we'll go with the resource group and say it's APM. And I'll say keeping central India, no infrastructure standard. And here we will deploy something called Ubuntu. Okay. Okay, now there's two things. The moment I've chosen it, size, of course, I'm taking the default one. Here, different size are available. As you can see, this is the one we were discussing earlier. All these size are available here. D series, DS series, B series, DC series, E series, F series, L series, N series, and so on. Okay. So from here, you can choose anything. So I'm just going ahead with the default D2, this one. Okay. Now, authentication type. There are two authentication type for this virtual machine as far as Linux part is concerned. You will be having SSH public key or password. Now, when you compare with AWS, you do not have this facility to choose the password. This facility you will not get it. You will have to have only one selection, which is called SSH public key. So of course we can generate the public key, and the private key we will be generating it for connecting to this virtual machine. But for now, I'll be going ahead with the password. Later on, when we deploy again, we might go for the SSH public key. So here you need to give the username and password. Again, this is going to be your administrative account username and the password which you're going to generate right now. Okay, now inbound port. Now tell me guys, what is the inbound port I should be allowing it here? Is it SSH? Is it 40, 443 or 80? What is the inbound port?
22.
22, right? Yeah. So 22 by default, as you can see, it is a native protocol for the Linux. The similar way we have the 3389 for Windows. Okay. So now next is disk. This is a disk. I'm going ahead with the SSD network. Of course, network is something that we need to design it first, but we are just taking advantage what Microsoft is giving to us for now. Okay. Next, management. No need anything. Hit on review and create.
So when you create a VM, does it does it have a section to create a public and private IPs?
Yeah, actually, at the time of creating of this virtual machine, we have chosen the inbound port, right? 22. So it has created both the public and private IP address. Here it is. It has the public IP, and the down there it does have the private IP. Here it is. So by default, we'll talk about this. This is the dynamic private IP. Okay, it's not static. We'll understand the difference a little later. But right now, whenever you deploy virtual machine, it will be dynamic in nature. So you have a set of IPs, private IP address and the public IP address. Okay. How do you connect to this virtual machine, guys? Can I go ahead and connect it like this? Will it connect? How do you connect to your virtual machine, Linux virtual machine?
You can use public, no, not public, the private IP to connect, right?
Will
Yeah,
you
to have a
connect
putty
with the
session.
private IP?
Putty session.
Yeah, we need to have the putty. Without that, we will not be able to
Yeah, yeah, but we need to use the private IP to connect, correct?
Okay, let's see that. Okay, so putty is something that you need to download it. Putty. Okay, it is a Windows for me, so you can click on this download, and this is the link to download if you're using Windows. I'm sharing it on the chat window. You can download this client put this application from here and try to connect. I have already downloaded, so it's like this one. Put the app. Okay. Now, coming to the question, we should use the public or private. Now you guys have to decide.
Public.
Yeah, why can't we use the private?
Private, it is up to their network only, but so we are not in that network, so
Right.
uh,
We are not into network Mururas, and that's the reason we will not be able to connect to the private. Yes, private can only be used in certain cases. Okay. We are going to discuss that part also. Like, one of the best part is VPN. When you are going to connect to the Azure VPN, that time you can use this private IP. But as far as connecting to this machine from my local system, because I'm connecting to this machine, virtual machine, over the public network. Okay, so that is the reason I have the public IP. So if I give the public IP, okay, let's understand. If I give the private IP, what happens? It will not connect. Copy, paste, not happening. 10.0.0.4. 10.0.0.4. Okay, port number 22 is connected. Understood? So how do we connect? We'll connect using private public IP.
So the private IP is used more for, let's say I have two VMs created, and then if I had to connect these two VMs, let's say I want to transfer some files from VM1 to VM2, then I can use private IP. Can I use private IP that time?
It depends whether the private IP, they're part of the same resource group, they're part of the same location or not. If they are,
Oh.
then differently. If
one
you
thing,
one
one thing,
word.
one thing you can do. So log into. There are two machines, A and B. Log into A machine via public IP, and from there you can SSH to B machine via private IP. They are in the same network, so they can connect.
Yeah, as long as they are part of the same resource group, same network, and the location, you will be able to SSH, or you will be able to.
Yeah, SSH. Yeah.
Okay, so let's connect it now and see that. So this time I've copied the public IP. Okay, now it has given me alert. I'll accept it. And now the username password. And I'm in. So this is Ubuntu here, as you can see. This is Ubuntu. This is the configuration, user process, user logged in, IP version 4 for this, Ethernet, memory use, system load, and so on. Okay. This is my Ubuntu machine. Now, what exercise that we are going to do? If you recall, we used the Windows Server and what we installed? We installed the IES to make the server as a web server. Similar way, we will be using here, we will be making this Linux server as a web server. Okay. And when you install the web server component on the Linux machine, it is known as Apache server. Okay. Now, if you see that by default, if I open this public IP right now here, I'll not be able to see any kind of a configuration page here. Okay, the site can't be reached. So what should I do now? We will be going through a couple of commands for installing Apache on the web server. So let's go ahead and give this command here. So that is first command is sudo apt update to update any update is there. So it is just installing the latest update. Then thereafter, we will be installing the component called Apache 2, which is sudo apt install Apache 2 and hit on enter. So it is installing, it is asking that, okay, this is the library, these are the components will be installed. We'll say yes, install it.
So why when they give the VM, it's not up to date? Why we have to do the update?
It's just latest package, it's already up to date. The VMs is updated because we have the different modules and different libraries for the Linux. So we are just making sure that, okay, we are on to the latest libraries. The operating systems are already up to date. It is the components that we are, or the library that we are making sure that it is latest version.
Okay.
Now, if I see,
Yeah, even,
Mhm.
no, I was saying that even then, when they give it, it has to be updated. That's what my take on, but it's okay.
No, but if you see that, it comes as a part of image. Even though if you have the Windows 11, which is the latest version, sometime you will be seeing that, okay, it is a Windows 11, but that image was created almost 1 month, 2 months ago. And in the meantime, you will be getting a different patch. So if you see that, we will be ensuring that, okay, this, and of course, the kind of operating system what Linux and Windows has is a different. The kernel side, the kernel image, and how the function and the behave of the Linux is quite different from the Windows. And on top of it, Ubuntu is something like open source. Okay, it's not something who manage someone. It's like open community. You install it, everything. It's there's no central control as such. Okay, so we are ensuring that every packet, every libraries are up to date. That is the command I give. Okay, so if I see that version now, Apache, open version. So I got it. You see that this is the version, server version and the build version. Got it. Okay. Now we'll start this Apache, and for this we have to start with sudo system ctl status. Okay, so it is started. So the web server is started now. And now if I try to open the same URL, I should be able to see that web page, default web page.
Why not it is the HTTPS?
Because we have not used any SSL certificate, right? SSL certificate you need to purchase and you need to bind it. And that is the reason it is only HTTP. The way we have deployed for the Windows, in IIS also you must have seen that it was only HTTP. Have you ever attached SSL certificate? No. We need to purchase the SSL certificate and then need to bind this site with HTTP or with SSL certificate. And then only you should be able to see HTTPS.
Okay, so that will be provided by Azure and we have to pay. Is that correct?
Azure has the provision, but it is not very much mature, to be honest. So you have to go for some third-party site like GoDaddy, Big Rock. From there, you can download, you can purchase the SSL certificate.
Okay, so we can, okay, it's basically from third party and we can, bind it into our Apache server.
Yeah, I mean,
That
this is depend on the application. Like again, for what purpose
Yeah,
you
yeah,
will be creating it? Is it going to be SAN certificate or wildcard certificate? That requirement you need to let the vendor know, and then only they will be generating the certificates. Okay, coming to the same problem, guys. Why the site can't be reached? Did I make any mistake, or are we missing anything? Can you think why we are not able to open this site? Configuration is fine from the Linux prospect. We did install the Apache, but only thing is we are not able to open it. Are we missing anything, guys?
Outbound ports.
Okay, let's come here and see that. On the network, we have something for an issue. What is allowed, what is not allowed, and what need to be allowed in order to open this website.
inbound port.
Port 80.
Yes, guys, it's going to be 480. Remember that day also I told you, whenever you talk about inbound and outbound, keep the virtual machine. From the virtual machine standpoint of view, you understand it is going to be inbound or outbound. It's not going to be outbound because it is not something that we are not touching to the virtual machine and opening anything. Outbound in this case could be what RK has given one example, that you take the SSH on the private IP address. That is from the virtual machine you're taking another SSH connection. That is outbound. But in this case, it's going to be inbound. So we are going to use the HTTP settings here, and it's going to be HTTP, not HTTPS, because we do not have SSL certificate. Okay, allow HTTPS for allow, add it. So now we have allowed the inbound port. We'll wait for some time and we'll relaunch it.
You said this is inbound because it is inbound to the Apache server. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So now you can see the default configuration for the Apache Ubuntu default page. And of course, it is a default page. You can change it at any point of time. You can replace. See, that's what they have given. You should replace this file before continue to operate your HTTP server. Okay. So this is how actually you will be deploying the Apache or the web component on Linux. Any further questions, guys?
I have a question in inbound outbound. So I
Yes.
think I got confused. So Okay, so this part I understand. Inbound to the Apache, but so if I had to access the, let's, when you say we connected from the PuTTY, right? So that is again inbound to the VM,
Right.
right? So
Go ahead.
so what is the time that virtual machine act as an outbound IP?
See, okay, so this is inbound. Okay, this is inbound. Anything towards your virtual machine is going to be inbound. That day also.
Right,
So it's like this way. It is an inbound. So
right.
inbound could be like, you're taking RDP of this virtual machine. So RDP means you're trying to enter to the virtual machine,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
RDP.
yeah.
Now, the way we have HTTP also. HTTP also, it means it's going to be port number 80. There's some configuration which is present on the virtual machine and you're trying to access. Okay. So again, it's going to be
Inbound.
inbound.
Yeah.
Now, outbound could be you enter to the virtual machine and you're trying to open any packet, or you're trying to take RDP, or you're trying to take, or not RDP, it's going to be SSH. You're trying to take, say, you in to the virtual machine, and you're trying to, from there, you have opened the PuTTY and trying to connect to another Linux virtual machine.
Okay, got it.
That is going
Okay, I
to
got
be,
it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I got
Similarly,
it. I think I got confused with. So when we connect that HTTPS, that Apache server, um, that is outbound from virtual machine. That's what I got confused. So which is not true.
no, it's not.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anyone has any questions, guys? Any other question?
So let's say if I connect the Apache server from my virtual machine, I think I can be able to. So that time it will be outbound, correct?
No, no. From where you're trying to connect?
I can able to connect from the virtual machine itself to the Apache, right?
Yeah, yeah. That is your local. Yeah, that is going to be outbound. Yes.
Yeah, okay. So in that case, I need to enable the outbound port.
Yeah. By default, if you open the internet also, it's going to be outbound because you're opening outbound port.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It doesn't, yeah, I got it.
All right. So this is how actually we installed, configure the outbound, and we install Apache on the Linux machine. Now coming back to the theoretical part, disk. Okay. By default, whenever you deploy a disk, virtual machine disk, you have these things: operating disk, which has the label called C drive, and temporary disk, which has the short-term storage. Okay. And finally, you will be adding the data disk to your virtual machine tag. These are the different storage options, what you have it. Premium storage for high performance, low latency SSD disk support. Use premium storage for virtual machine with minimum IOPS, intensive workload. So we have two types of disk, unmanaged and managed. What is unmanaged and managed? Unmanaged disks are maintained by Azure. Okay. Unmanaged disks are require you to manage and storage the account and VST. Now, in what circumstances we might choose unmanaged and managed? Managed is something that when you deploy the virtual machine, the associate storage account will be used. And when you're going to add the data disk on top of your virtual machine, again, it's going to be managed disk. Unmanaged disks are something which actually you need to, when you do the kind of lift and shift migration or any sort of migration or anything which is like custom, disk that you are creating and you wanted to migrate with the help of Azure, then you will be using that. Okay, here it is. More information here. So first of all, manage this. What is the manage this? And applies to Linux, Windows, flexible skill set. It is the disk volume are managed by Azure and used with virtual machine. Okay, what is this? It's just like a physical disk in on-prem server, but virtualized, right? This type of disk are ultra disk, premium, solid SSD, and so on. What is the benefit of this? Highly durable and available. So this is the availability. Okay, you will get LRS, ZRS, and all this thing we will be talking when we are going to discuss storage account. Simple and scalable VM deployment. Using these managers, you can create this much virtual machine, a virtual machine disk. Okay, and the maximum in a one subscription, 1000 VM you can deploy it. That is the limit. Integration with availability set, that is also possible. Integration with availability zone, Azure backup support, disk support, granular access control, upload your VM. So these are the different, example and the benefits you will be getting. You are free to create the private links, encryption, server-side encryption, and so on. So this is the example for creating managed disk. Okay, as you can see here, OS disk, temporary disk, and data. There is a word called here persistent, not persistent, and again persistent. What does it mean? Anyone, guys? Persistent, not persistent. What is the meaning?
Not persistence is maybe it's not temporary. Maybe that's what you also said there.
Yeah, it is a temporary, but in what sense it says not persistent?
It's not constantly we can access that, something like that.
Yeah, it's like, as simple as that. The moment any sort of operations happen on your virtual machine and the virtual machine gets restart, there is a possibility that you will not get this drive. Or if you get any sort of drive, also the same drive, you will not get any data. So that is why it says not persistent. And C drive is like, it's a persistent. And on top of it, any sort of storage you are adding it, that is also going to be persistent. Okay. So you have the data disk, which is something that we need to add it. We will be adding the sum of the disk and you will come to know. And each data disk this is the maximum capacity of each and every data disk. Okay, and OS disk, the moment you deploy the virtual machine, has the maximum capacity this much. Temporary disk, the three type of disk we have it: data disk, OS disk, and temporary disk. This is temporary, which is not a managed disk. It's short-term storage for application process, so and so, your page file. So data on this temporary disk may be lost during the maintenance event, when you redeploy, when you stop the VM. That is the reason we should not store anything here. Okay, and finally, you can also use the snapshot images. So these are the different benefit of managed disk. Now, what is unmanaged disk? So unmanaged disk is something in this documentation, it is missing. Let me open unmanaged disk. Okay, so it is saying unmanaged is going to be retired.
Share these links, please.
So it is going to be retired, I think, 2024, 2025. Okay. So before that, what they are going to retire. So what it used to be, what is the use case for the unmanaged is? I'm not sure why some documentation are missing here. Let me see. No, it's not here. So for instance, you have some virtual machine, on-prem virtual machine, okay? And some VMs are there on this virtual machine. You have installed set of applications, and now you wanted to do a kind of lift and shift migration from here directly to virtual machine, creating a virtual machine in Azure. So you will be first creating a disk. You will be converting it to something which Microsoft supported. VSD generation 1 or generation 2. I think generation 1 is being used. So with the PowerShell command, we will be converting the disk VSD file. And with this VSD file, we will be taking into the Azure. And from there, we will be creating a new virtual machine containing the same disk what we are creating it. Okay, that is unmanaged disk. So of course, at any point of time, you can convert unmanaged disk to managed disk later on. But during this configuration, during this deployment, it is known as unmanaged disk, which Microsoft does not have any control. It means you cannot take the snapshot, you cannot, provide the backup. It's like we have to, as a consumer, that our customer, we need to maintain it, we need to manage it. So that is unmanaged disk, guys. Now, supporting operating system. As of now, whatever we have done the exercise, we only come to know that maximum either Windows or Linux. These are the two operating systems are being supported as of now. Okay, there's no other operating system. We have already created virtual machine. Okay, so this was the deployment for this, and now we will be doing some more exercise related to virtual machine. Okay, so let's quickly take 5 minutes break, guys, and then we'll be proceeding with the rest of the exercise, like deploying the Windows virtual machine and adding some more operational stuff over there. Okay, so just 5 minutes, not more than that. Setting the timer. Okay, we will be back. Thank you. All right, guys. So let's start it. Everyone is back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so this was the deployment for the Linux. What we are going to do next, we will be deploying, something called some operations related to virtual machine. Okay, what all the operations? Let's quickly deploy one more virtual machine, and this is going to be Windows virtual machine. VM lab. I will say from server. Availability zone not needed. Standard. We are going to use doesn't. I'll go ahead with the default one for now because we are going to do some operational stuff on this virtual machine. Okay, so what all we are going to do now? So on this virtual machine, we have seen and that as part of the definition or the documentation, we found that there are two disk type. In fact, by default, there are two disk type. Okay, you will see something called C drive. You will be having C drive, right? C drive. And you will also have something called D drive, temp drive. Okay. So as part of this, we will be just creating something called data disk today. Okay. And we'll see how to attach the data disk to the virtual machine. Data disk is something that you need to have it when you want to store something, because OS, C is OS, you should not store anything here. D is the temporary, and that is the need. That is the reason you need to have some data disk, which can be F drive, G drive, H drive, S drive, and so on. The deployment completed. Let's connect to this virtual machine. And I'll be using this public IP. It is not getting copied. Okay, so let's connect. So if you open this right now under server manager and this PC, so you have something called C drive, which is close to 126 GB, and D drive. Now, if you open the D drive here, which is close to 16 GB, you see that it is a data loss warning message, which Microsoft says this is the temporary disk. Any data stored on this is subject to loss, and there's no way to recover it. And that is the reason they do not promote to use for storing any personal or application data. That is the need, that is the reason we need to have the data disk, because on the operating disk, OS disk, partition disk, we should not store anything. Anything goes wrong with the operating system, your data will be lost. So how do we add this additional disk? To adding it, we'll have to come here under this disk here. This is the OS disk. Now we are going to add data disk. So let's go ahead and create it. Create and attach new disk. So this is nothing but your logical unit. You can give any number. Disk name, you can give anything. For example, I'm giving IT disk. Premium or SSD, whatever you feel so. Let's go ahead with a standard. The size, you can define the size here. I'm adding 10 GB for now. This is the maximum IOPS in a standard SSD you will be getting it. The throughput is this much. And I'll say simply read and write. And save this configuration. Additionally, 10 GB I added. Okay, now if I come to the virtual machine, refresh it, I should be able to see this one. But I'm not able to see. Am I missing something, guys? Anyone has any idea? What further I need to do in order to see that 10 GB here?
You need to attach it.
Yeah, attachment only I did it, right? Attachment 10 GB I attached, but I'm not able to see that attachment.
Need to reduce the size from others like D.
No.
Okay.
So there is a provision here under the server manager. Okay, when you open it, we have to go to the disk management. Okay. Under the file here, what we have, disk. Now, if you see that disk, what on the disk we have it, this is something what we added. It is there, right? This one online, 10 GB, but there's no partition attached. So when we click here, click and new volume, and from here I'll be creating a disk. I'll be assigning some partitions. So volume size has been reduced here because of some internal purpose. It is taking almost 300 GB, and okay. It's like F drive. You can choose any drive from here. Let's see S drive. Next, the name of this volume, you can give the name, anything, data, and edit, create. Okay, now if you see your my computer, so I should be able to see new drive. Okay, this is the persistent storage. It means any operations happen, even though my data will be safe here. Okay, this is how we attached additional storage to our virtual machine. Any questions, guys?
No. I have one general question though. In the admin certification, like Would they focus mostly on Windows or they focus on Linux or both?
Majority would be in Windows, but having said that, you should be knowing on the Linux also. But on the operational front, they will be discussing both the capabilities, Linux and Windows. For instance, availability set, you have the same concept. For installing some sort of component like Apache, or any web component, same stuff. Resizing is same stuff. Network is going to be same. Availability set is going to be same. It's like one of the component, one of the operating system, if you know, it's fairly okay. All right.
Okay.
So after this, what next we will be doing it? There is a extensions, extensions plus application. That's what we are going to discuss next. What is the extensions and the application? So there is a virtual machine extensions. What is virtual machine extensions? Let's understand what is the extensions overview. Extensions are small applications that provide the post-deployment VM configuration and automated tasks. It is managed by CLI, PowerShell, resource template, and portal. Okay, and it has the different bundle for Windows and Linux both. So in a in a layman term, once you deploy the virtual machine, now you need to deploy certain applications. You need to deploy the certain application without logging to the virtual machine. Okay, from the portal or from the CLI or from the PowerShell command, remotely you should be installing something. Okay, that is called extensions. Okay, now if you click on add here and install an extensions, so these are the by default pre-integrated extensions for Microsoft Windows Server. You can install Agent for cloud protection Windows, for Windows monitoring, automation, hybrid worker, chef VM, control, custom script, data. These are the default integrated for Microsoft Windows. You can keep on scrolling and you will get more and more. So we will not bother about for this. For instance, the use case could be like, you want to install semantic antivirus for multiple workstations or a multiple workload remotely from the portal. For that purpose, you will be using it. Okay. Now, what we are going to use it, we have the script and we will be using something custom script. Okay. Now, custom script is what? Custom script is the features which Microsoft has created for the Windows. Similarly, we have for Linux also. This script, by using the script, we will be installing something on Windows Server. Okay. So for this, I will be using one of the script, and that script is known as PowerShell script. So for installing the PowerShell, what we have to do it, we have to use the scripting part, and the scripting is something that I will be using it from here. And we have already seen, right, how do we install the IIS on Windows Server. So for installing the IIS on Windows Server, there's a one command line, right? I'll be using one command line here as a .ps1. Whenever you save any command with the .ps1, that will become a PowerShell script. If you don't know, or if you are. So
I thought PowerShell is only used for Linux, Unix side. For Windows, it is batch something.
No, you're saying other way around. But Windows PowerShell is starting from 7 onwards. It's like heterogeneous. It works in Windows and Linux both.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so right now it is, if you see that $ps version, here it is, $ps version table. So right now it is version is 5.1. So it is not supported, but if you see the starting from 7 onwards, it is supported. Okay,
For both.
yeah, for both Windows and Linux. So this is the command for the PowerShell, right? So what I would be doing it, I'll be using this PowerShell command to remotely install the web server. I'll not do anything on the server. Okay, so we'll go ahead and use this script. So I'll say it is there on my, I'll be using this storage. So, okay, now we have to define the storage account in order to save this scripting file. Okay, so that is the reason the storage account is already there. I'm just creating one container. And create it. Then refresh. Then we need to upload this script. I'm uploading it here. I think it should be on my desktop. Select. All right. Now, argument is something which is optional, so I'm not bothering about for now. Next is review, and next is create. So now with this deployment, what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to install IES on the server. Okay, it is going through the process, and once it is done, I'll be getting the successful or any sort of error message I should be able to see from here.
Can I use more than one script under one container?
Yes, you can.
So it will execute in the order I upload, is it?
If you're deploying, then it has to be in, there is a timer that you need to use it for what purpose you're using it. Otherwise, it will conflict. One has to complete first, and then it has to start another.
Okay. So we have to set the timer or something. That's what you said.
Yeah, in the timer, we have to select it.
Okay. So the timer is on the GUI bay. I mean, on the front end somewhere I need to,
No,
or in the
you
script
need
I
to,
need to.
in the script only you need to design it.
Okay. Okay.
Here in the GU on the graphic part on the portal, you will not get it. So on the Windows server, I'm logged in here, and if you see the server manager, once it is done, we should be able to see IS. Okay, but still it is getting installed from here.
Yeah, meanwhile, can you tell me where you clicked for that custom script? Which menu item? I missed that point.
Yeah, no problem. You can let me open the duplicate tab here. It is part of your virtual machine here. When you go to Windows Server, and down there you have extensions plus applications. From here, I'm deploying it. Then you need to add it. Add it, attach. Very first time, you will have to create something called storage account, because that will not be there. You need to attach it.
Okay, inside that virtual machine.
Yeah.
Extension.
Let's wait for a couple of more minutes or so. In addition to that, there are some more, command here, which is called run command. As part of your operations, we'll talk about that one. Let's complete this first.
In the certification, they do have like practical, like lab kind of questions, like whatever you are doing, kind of thing, anything like that.
Yeah, it's like some of the questions will come from the scenario prospect also. I'll be sharing you a couple of, some question paper. How, what are the nature of the questions, and just to give you some feel about the question paper or the questions which comes in the exam.
Okay.
And this is how actually we deploy. Deployment completed. Let's verify the settings. If I go to the virtual machine now, see here, IS is already there. If I open the page, IS, and type here local host. So I'm able to see it, right? So this is the way to install. This is the another way to install using a custom script extensions. Okay. Now, of course, you guys must have mastered it now. What should I do here in order to open it from the external? If I want to see the same page, what I can see inside the virtual machine, if I want to use on my local laptop, will I able to see the same page?
We need to enable the inbound ports.
Which port?
Inbound ports 80.
Yeah, inbound port. So I think now it's pretty clear, guys. Please do not get confused. Inbound and outbound, right? If I open the port here, port number 80, for my virtual machine, I should be able to see the same. Okay. Now there is one more concept. So let's understand some of more things. Sizing. Sizing is also one of the factors. Like right now, whenever you do resizing, I think one of you asked this question: is it possible to resize the virtual machine? Yes, it's possible. Right now, the size of this is my current size and the configuration of the VM. If I wanted to change it, because because of any XYZ reason, I came to the conclusion where I need to change the sizing of this virtual machine, is either to lower configuration or higher configuration. Okay. So say if I want to change it from my current configuration to some other. So what is that I need to do? First of all, whenever you're doing resizing, ensure that you have taken the proper approval, because restarting might impact your application and it might create a chaos for the application sometime. Very, very rare. But yes, you take the downtime properly, take the consent before resizing. You see that here, if I try to do resizing, say I'm going to use this one. I'm going to use from my current configuration, I'm going to use this configuration. So I'm increasing the compute. So if I click on resizing, it start resizing of virtual machine, and during this operation, my virtual machine might not be accessible. See here, remote server is shutting down.
Before doing this, we need to shut down, right?
We don't need, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to, but if the moment you starting this process itself will initialize the shutdown in the backend. That's what you can see in the, I have not done it, but yes, ideal scenario is you shut down and then do the resizing. So I'm increasing the compute for this. I think it's done. So resizing completed. Now, if I see the overview, I can see this had changed. Okay. Now you see that 8 CPU, 32 GB of RAM. Okay. This again, I got the high compute power. So if I connect to that virtual machine again, I should be able to connect. So during this configuration only, or during this process only, I was not able to access it. But now I should be able to access. You go to the server manager to verify the configuration. Taking some more time. Probably we have to restart the VM. But if you see that the memory had changed, the configuration had changed. It's a 8-core CPU with installed memory 32 GB. The rest of other things is untouched. When I say untouched, if you go to my computer and see your D drive, S drive, and these all 3 drives are intact and present here. So this is the third exercise. We have done it. So far, what all we have done? We have increased exercise, what all we have done it so far. First one is attaching data disk. Then we spoke about extensions. And the third one is resizing. Okay, these three exercises we have done it. What next we are going to do? We will be talking about something called here operations. Under the operations, it's like machines I'm putting on hold. We will be doing it in the next lab. Auto shutdown, right? Auto shutdown is an option which actually we can leverage it to shut down your virtual machine. Okay, this is the time that you can choose it, and you can define that, okay, I should be getting a notification before you shutting down the virtual machine. So the moment you click on yes, you'll have to define the email address. Okay, then we can also take the backup. Backup, again, we will be talking about backup and restoration, the same stuff on the disaster recovery. Then there's something called updates. Updates for the patch management. Okay, now this patch management or update management is something that we should be able to control either through third party vendors. What we discussed yesterday, CrowdStrike is one of them, Symantec is another one, McAfee and all. Or else you can use here Microsoft Update Management. That is also part of your runbook that we will be discussing it. Then certain commands.
Ajay, a small question.
Yeah.
Yeah, here updates, we have guest OS updates and host OS updates. So, what is the guest OS and host OS?
If you see here, guest OS and host, this is like a planned maintenance window. Guest operating system, it means when you deploy the virtual machine, it is that you will be using it for the Azure and Azure Arc. There is a concept for Azure Arc. That is actually, this option is getting visible from there only, but it is not applicable for us. We will be doing, for instance, if you wanted to do a patch management or update management for your virtual machine, then you will be using update management. The guest operating system and update management is something which they are talking from the on-prem stack prospect. Okay, so this is what update guest operating. Host OS update is like you will be doing it for, say, what happens is when you use the Azure Arc, there's a concept for Azure Arc. This is like using something called EXSI, virtualization inside the virtualization. Okay, for that purpose, we will be using this. It's a very big topic, Azure Arc itself, but I'll just give you one of the, it's a hybrid and multi-cloud management from Microsoft. Okay, it's a bridge that extends the Azure platform to build your application to across the data center. Okay, so you can install the multiple virtual machine from the different vendors altogether. Like inside the virtual machine, again, you will be having virtual machine. So it's a very powerful tool. And for that purpose, under the Azure Arc, you will be having multiple operating systems, multiple VMs in one shot. So say right now in the on-prem, how you're using EXSI or VMware, in the same manner, you will be using Azure Arc inside your virtual environment in an Azure environment. And under the Azure Arc container, you will be having 10 virtual machine, 20 virtual machine, 100 virtual machine, and so on. And this virtual machine could be comprised of Windows and Linux both. So that is like, different path altogether. That is, the certification itself is, I think, different. It is AZ600 or something. Okay, it's going to be retired. It's like AG600, it's going to be, but this is Azure Arc AG600 for hybrid and multi-cloud environment. This is Azure Stack Hub or something. For that purpose, we will be using this update management. Okay.
But by default, we have only one, right? Only host OS. We won't have the guest OS.
Yeah, for us, it is only the host OS. We do not have the guest OS, correct? So for this update management, we will be using this. And this again is being controlled using the automation account or runbook. Then we have something called here, the set of commands, set of command. For instance, again, we can run the PowerShell script from here. We can run any PowerShell command remotely. For instance, if I wanted to know what all the services are running, so get service and run. So it will be running inside my VM and I should be able to see all sort of output from here. Get service and the output is getting generated for me. I should be able to see under this console. Okay. Like that, if you want to install something remotely, this is also one of the way to install it. Get service. Then you can also use get. We can get.
This command is common for, same for the Windows and the Linux side, right? There is no change.
Command, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, it's change. It changed. The syntax is going to be changed in Linux. It's not going to be the same.
Okay.
So like that, say if I wanted to, get Windows. Only thing is it will not give you get Windows features. Not sure whether this will execute or not. Let me see whether it was the command get Windows feature. No, this is not a command here. Yeah, we can give this policy. This will not run because there is no such command. Get execution policy is something that you can try. It is just not accepting, okay, because there is no such command. But if I give this command and run it, I should be able to get the output.
We are getting two outputs now for get service and execution policy.
Sorry?
We are getting two outputs now. Like we have entered two.
No,
commands.
actually the second one, where is my cursor? That one is, so see, it is unrestricted. This is the output. Okay, so this is the output I'm getting it unrestricted. The output of this get execution policy command. So yes, this is the policy. This is the behavior of virtual machine that you can control it from here. There is one more thing which is called policy, which is at most critical and important part, that you can define the policy for so and so reason. First of all, you will be defining that, okay, what is the definition, what is the compliance status, non-compliance and all. Then you will be creating a policy. Like this policy can be executed, or this policy can be, this is like more or less kind of compliance things that you will be generating it at the tag of creation of any subscription, and then you will be assigning this policy to set up resource group. And then this resource group, you will be, first of all, you will assign this, okay, what is the definition, initiative definition. So these are the default, compliance. For instance, NIST, what we defined yesterday, what we discussed yesterday, guest configuration, a CIS Microsoft benchmark, regulatory compliance, Microsoft Cloud Security benchmark. So if I just say that, okay, this is what something I want, so add it, describe it, then assign by so and so, next. Then you assign the scope. What is the scope? Any override that you wanted to do it, or you wanted to enable it for all. Then parameter, any parameter that you wanted to do. Next is remediation, permission. Okay, all of these things you should be able to do it. Now, this is a specific message that you wanted to configure it for any internet facing virtual machine. This is auditing on SQL Server. So this is one of the component, for the policy. Now, if you next create it, this will be created right now, but it will not be enabled unless we go and enable it for the specific virtual machine or the subscription. The best way is to define the policy is at the subscription level. From there, it will be hierarchy, it will be down and replicated from top to bottom. It will flow from top to bottom. Okay. For that,
So if I define the policy on the subscription, the policy will apply for all the resource group in the subscriptions. That what it means. Okay.
So here we have this policy. This is the top policy. Here you will be first defining. These are three things. First of all, define it, assign it, and create any kind of exemption here. So here it is. By default, these are the predefined policies. You can utilize one of them, or you can create your own policy. And then you assign it. And if any exception need to be made, then you will be creating the same.
So the policy is something like telling the the subscription something like let's say give permission to this kind of activity, something like that, or what exactly that?
It is like, control, at the same time some sort of compliance policies. Like you want to say, in a normal, one of the example is like password policy. Password policy for your organization, there would be some password policy, like the password should be at least 8-character length, should be a mix of alphanumeric, something. Same thing here. Now this policy define all set of controls which you wanted to implement for your organization. So we have the template ready. These are the template, For example, you are dealing with any sort of credit card industry, or you are from the credit card industry. So these templates are by default. You can use it, any sort of example like HIPAA. You can use this template, or something which is not matching it here, the compliance policy or the policy. For example, this is Reserve Bank of India regulatory compliance. So you can use this. Under this compliance, you will be having set of policies, what need to be done, what need not to be done. All these are already there. For example, parameters. Under this parameter, you have so and so things. Policies, these are the policies. Subscription should have at least contact email address for the security issues. Email notification need to be sent for Azure Cosmos DB account should have the customer managed key. Key vault should have the deletion protection policy.
Okay, so all these policies will be part of the subscription, and whatever the components under the subscription. When I say components, like even it allows for network and
So
application.
yes. So under this, you will be having, first of all, you will be choosing the definition. And then under the definition, you will be having framework. That okay, for example, Reserve Bank of India IT framework. These are the different settings, the technical setting that you need to do it in order to be compliance for this, like that. Or if something is not matching to your requirement, you can always come and create the policy definition like this.
But we need to define the rule, right? Like it's not like just giving the policy. We need to,
Well,
let's say,
definitely, we need to have the policy rule. For example, this is the policy rule, and you can use the definition from the GitHub, or you can create any sort of policies from here. These are the templates, policy templates.
yeah, okay. Let's say for simple example, let's say I have to give a permission to XYZ user only. So I can create the policies in that whatever, either from GitHub or I can create something, whatever the section is showed. I'm
Right.
just giving you a small example. Okay.
Yes, that's exactly we do as part of this policy creation and definition. So it has the three steps. Under the definition, you will be defining the policy, then you will be assigning the policy, and finally you will be making exception, if any. You can also use from getting start here, how actually you will do it. Okay. So you have the policy by category also you can see here. By regulatory compliance also you have it, or by compute also you have these policies. Okay. Then monitoring section, we will be doing it later. We have a dedicated monitoring section. We will be completely doing all the insight as part of this. Now, some other exercise, what you can do is like extension availability. Yeah, understand the availability and scaling. Okay, let's go to the virtual machine skill set, what we have it, and something called virtual machine skill set. Let's do this part. First of all, understand what is scalability. Okay, scalability we already spoke about. It's a kind of just to meet the requirement. We spoke about Amazon or Flipkart, right? In the initial or the beginning of this concept. Scaling is something as the demand goes up, your associate compute should be, or your application associated with the compute should be capable enough to meet the demand. And as the demand goes down, it should come back to the same position where it was. That is something called scaling. Now, scaling has a two addition, you can say, vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. As the diagram or as a picture, what you can say is a vertical scaling happens when you are creating something called, you have the vertical scaling here. You have a one compute here. And when you do the vertical scaling, it is just keep on increasing the compute. For instance, when you deploy one of the application hosted on this box, and the size of this box is 4 GB RAM. And say 4-core CPU. Okay. When it is scaling done, it has increased to 8 GB RAM. And from 4-core to 8-core. And similarly, it also increased this. So this kind of scaling is known as vertical scaling. Horizontal scaling is what? The same box, same compute will be keep on adding as the time increase or as the situation arises. That okay, you will be doing the horizontal scaling. So these are the two concepts that we should be knowing it. What is vertical scaling? What is horizontal scaling? Okay. Now, do we have any concept, or do we, if we understand this concept, can you judge which one is easy to implement, and by default, what is the scaling concept which Microsoft prefer?
Mm,
I feel
I
it
think
is
horizontal.
horizontal scaling.
Okay, RK feels horizontal scaling. What about others?
Yeah, I also think horizontal.
Why? What is the reason, guys? Why not vertical scaling?
I feel that suppose we have a VM, and to generate another VM, we just need a snapshot and all, right? So with that snapshot, we will turn on or switch on another VM. Like this, we can switch on any VMs in an instance. But for the vertical scaling, maybe we need to shut down and up it, and there is a 1 minute downtime or 2 minutes downtime. I feel, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, slightly answer is correct, RK. Yeah, when it's come to vertical scaling, you know, the kind of nature, the kind of concept what we have, it always keep on increasing the compute. It means the compute itself, you need to have the downtime. Every time you're doing the scaling, you need to get some downtime in order to increase the capacity. But unlike that, horizontal scaling is like you're adding, you don't need any sort of downtime. You're adding the compute in the backend. And similar way, you are removing it. And that is the reason horizontal scaling is a default scaling mechanism for virtual machine skill set.
I have
One more question for me. So in the horizontals, I feel that the same, suppose we are horizontal scaling a VM A, and we are getting the replica of the same VM, right?
Yes, it will be same replica.
So it is through snapshots or some others.
It is just a snapshot. It's just a snapshot, and you will be defining the criteria, okay? That whether you want to have the manual scaling or automated scaling. There are two things that we can do it. So automated scaling is something that you should be defining that certain metrics, okay? So we are going to do the same step. It's not just snapshot only, it is just a complete replica of your VM that will be created, that will be scale up during the process of scaling.
With all the applications installed in it, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
This is what,
Okay,
yeah.
sorry, sorry for. So I was going to ask some question relates on the same line. So vertical scaling happens on the same VM, is it?
It,
Horizontal is something we are
hmm?
replicating. Um,
So horizontal scaling, just like one VM you have it, it's one VM. The
right.
moment you set the scaling, horizontal scaling, one more instances or the VM will be created in the backend.
Yeah, yeah.
So it is going
Sorry,
to
sir. I think
eventually
I got
same
confused.
VM.
Okay. In vertical scaling, we use the same VM to scale up. Is it?
Correct. Vertical also the same VM. It's just like it is going to increase the capacity.
Okay.
So in both the scaling, your VM is going to be same, whether it is a horizontal or vertical.
Okay.
Any other questions, guys? So we have the scale set here, the concept of scale set, you know. Now, scaling is very much popular when we combine with scale set. And what is scale set? You see that scale set is nothing but deploy a set of identical VM. Okay. So under one scale set, you will be having multiple virtual machine. Okay. So here, no pre-provisioning VMs is needed. As the demand goes up, the VMs will be added in the backend, and as the demand goes down, VMs will be removed. This process can be automated or manual, or we can combine it. So scale set concept is nothing but combination of multiple virtual machine in one box. So it is as per the documentation. Let's go and understand what is that. So this is scale set. Okay. Scale set lets you to manage a group of load balanced VM. Okay. Automatically it can increase or decrease as the demand ask or define schedule. What are the benefits? These are the benefits. Easy to create and manage multiple VMs. It is not only one VM, guys. It has a multiple virtual machine. Provide high availability and application resiliency. Allow your application to automatically scale. And with this, you should be able to create 1000 VMs. And these are the skill set. Easy to create and manage multiple VMs. It provides high availability and application resiliency. Allow application to automate demand, meet the demand, and maximum it can go for 1000 VMs. So how do we create this skill set? We have to come here.
Can you share that link?
Yeah, I'll share it. So how do we create this skill set? We'll have to come here and type virtual machine skill set. Virtual machine skill set. This is the skill set. Okay. So now if I create the virtual machine skill set, this is what I need to define it. And here you will be defining the skill set name. I'll say that app servers, reason and availability zone. And these are the different orchestration mode, like how you will define the skill set model, flexible or uniform. Flexible means high availability. Optimized means large scale. So if I go for flexibility and keep the standard, by default, the image which I'm choosing is this. You can choose any image. And then username and password is going to be the same. Till here, you feel like that you're creating one virtual machine, but it's not true. We'll see some other settings in the next tab. Next, sport. And next is disk. Here it is something for scaling. Now, initial instances. This is what, if you scale set, see the definition, it's combination of multiple virtual machine. So you can just see that how many instances are running right now. These are the two. And then we have the scaling policy, manual or custom. We should be able to create right away or post deployment also. So if I go with the initial instance count, at least initial instance means these number of virtual machines are running and as part of one skill set. You can change this volume, right? You can change it to 4, 5. So like maximum is around 1000 or something. If I give 500 is also accepted. So 1000 also it will accept. And then 2000 it will accept. Not sure. I think it's a 5000 something that you can create it. So I'm going with the 2 for now. And then next is management, health, review, and create it. So when you create this skill set, 2 identical virtual machines will be created in the backend. Identical, okay?
So when you say identical VM gets created, the operating system and everything will be created as well.
Yeah, operating system along with the size of the VM is going to be the same. We'll see that.
But why do we need the OS for the scaling?
It is Windows only, right? We have defined the Windows operating system. We can
No.
do Linux also.
Yeah, that's correct. But what I'm saying is scaling, we need only the resources, right? We don't really need the operating system, isn't it?
No, scaling does happen. We need to see resource where actually you're going to deploy the resource. It need to have some background, right? It need to have some supporting operating system. So for example, if I'm saying that okay, I want to deploy some application. So application where you will install first of all, you will have to have some host, right? To get supported. So that support that the compute you empowering that application using this VM only, right?
Okay, I thought scaling doesn't. When we create and scaling, we don't really need to have an OS on the VM.
No, this is my operating system. This is the size. And now you see the instances. These are the 2 instances. 2 VMs are running under one virtual machine skill set. And this is my operating system.
But
now there's a concept for disk. Rest of other things will remain as it is. Something called scaling. Now these are the things that we should be bothering about when we talk about scaling virtual machine skill set. Here what we have is scaling policy. When we also have manual scale, custom auto scale. What is the meaning of this manual scale, custom auto scale? So right now it is set in manual scale. What does it mean? It means you know the trend. You know that how your application is going to behave in what circumstances. And you're pretty much confident, okay, during so and so time, this much maybe your compute, you might need it. Okay. So we started with the 2 virtual machine or 2 instances right now. But if you say, if I choose for custom, okay. So under the custom, you will be defining the rule. You will be defining the criteria, how this auto scaling will work, how this scaling will work. You need to define it. You know, you are no longer using a manual prediction. Rather, you are relying on something which makes more sense. Okay. Now here is the different criteria. So if I have to create the criteria, I'll be adding the scale condition. And here is something I should be adding the rule. And here is something, the rule I should be adding. This rule is nothing but the matrix. That matrix you will be defining it. For example, the matrix could be percentage CPU. Okay. Virtual machine host percentage CPU. How much the percentage CPU? The average value is 65%, or you can change it to 75%. Okay, yeah, this is the one. Yeah, here it is. So if your CPU matrix, goes or hit up to or greater than or equal to 80%, I'm saying 80%. So what should be my instruction, or what the instruction we are giving to Azure? If my CPU utilization hit 80% or equal to, and it sustained for at least 5 minutes, 5 minutes it sustained. You are taking any average or you minimum, whatever you feel, so you can give. Then what should be the action? Action means increase count, cool down time 5, instances count. How many instances you need? 1 or 2? You can add 1 or 2 depending on the criteria. And after that, cool down. Minutes is 5 minutes. What is that? The amount of time to wait. If you cool down 10 minutes, a scale operation just occur, auto scale will not attempt to scale again until after 5 minutes. So this is like, cooling down any instances which you added. It will just wait for 10 minutes before attempting to add another instances. So this is how actually you will be defining the criteria. Similar way, you have a different matrix you can use for input output, memory consumptions, IOPS space, disk write and read and write, and memory utilization. So many other criteria are there. Basis on that, you will be defining the rule. And this rule, when the
Ajay, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Ajay, one small question. So, you said like once you hit that 70% of CPU usage, you will be creating a 2 instances. Yes, would you
Yes,
mind to come down once?
right. Yes, that is true. That is true
Right.
understanding.
So, yeah. So suppose I in my settings um, uh, I already said like let's create a 2 instances while creating a VM scaling. So once we are hitting the 70% of CPU, we are using this instance count totally here. Just in case, here 2 questions. Just in case, um, uh, we need all the 3 VMs. Now 3 VMs are there, right? The base VM and the next 2 VMs. So 3 VMs got hit by 70%. What will you do? Is there any chance to increase 2 more, or as we have given only 2 at the settings, it will end up only 2? And other thing is, um, uh, when we when that is the first question. The second question is, when we gave the instance, suppose we gave the instance count as 1. Suppose now we have 1 VM, A VM, and when the A VM got 70%, it will create B VM, which is the instant count 1. Suppose both the VMs got increased to 70%, then what it happens?
Okay. So first question is, this matrix which we are talking, there are 4, virtual machines under the virtual machine skill set. I mean, 2 virtual machines which we already set during the deployment, and 2 more we are adding it. So yes, if the CPU utilization is going to be 80% or more than that, then the 2 more instances will be added. So total 4, and this CPU utilization is a collective CPU utilization. It is not only for one, because virtual machine scale set is like one container, and under the one container, 2 instances are running independently, but they are associated with one scale set. So it is not like how many virtual machines or instances are running under one skill set. It is going to measure each and every VM performance. No, not in this manner. it will be collectively taking the measurement for all the VMs under one virtual machine skill set. And then it will decide that, okay, this is what it happens. So that first things, and I think the second questions also you got the answer, right? This is how collectively it is not one virtual machine. That's what we say skill set. You have a multiple, VMs or instances, but end of the day, it is working as a single unit. So collectively, it is taking all these metrics.
So you say VM A 40%, VM B 40%, then it will increase. It will create
Yeah,
two more
that's what it
VMs.
says. Yeah, that's what it says, percentage CPU. So if you see that 80%, it means it divided into two automatically, right? So in actual, the overall virtual machine scale set, it ended up to 45 or 43. See, I cannot change this. This value I cannot override. See, it is not allowing me to delete or change anything here. Okay. So it is dividing. The moment you say 80%, it divide by 2. If I say it is going to be 90%, so it will be changed close to 90% somewhere. So it is automatically dividing whatever the VM we have taken it under scale set. So this value is collective value. It is not only for one VM or one instances which are running under virtual machine scale set.
Yeah, so the load kind of get balanced across all the three VMs.
Sorry, come again.
So the resources will be used across all three VMs.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Not all, 3. Now adding 2 more, it will be or 4 VMs. Altogether 4.
Yeah.
After the scaling.
Yeah.
One question. Sorry. So you are saying that after the scaling, we are getting four VMs, right? We have created only one VM, and which is a base VM. And where is the other VM? I got confused. Sorry.
Now, under the scaling, we have given the count, right? If you see under the scaling, see, let it be add. Let's add it. Okay. And okay, let me open duplicate tab. So under the instances, you see that there are 2 virtual machines running. We have chosen 2 VMs under one skill set. Okay, and we are talking these VMs collectively, configuration of this. So if you see that on the skill set, we have 2 VMs running on. And when we are adding the skill set here, we are defining the collective metrics for all the VMs. And then we are saying, okay, increase count by 2. You can add it 1 or 2 or again more than 2. And then add it. Now again, if you in the subsequent question for you, like, if it is also not sufficient, then again you need to go and create the rule. But after creating 1 or 2 rule, you will come to know, okay, what is the trend. If it is needed more, 2 CPU, 2 instances, 3 instances, you can modify the existing matrix itself. Okay. And at the same time, you are going to define something called lower, decrease the count. When it is the CPU utilization is less than this much, or you can say lower or equal to, less than or equal to, say 40%, then again you will be removing that added VM. That also you need to define it. That okay, if my CPU utilization come to 40% and sustain for 5 minutes, please remove those VMs which were added, or those instances which were added. So you need to define both the rule, scale out and scale in. Okay, this rule, when you define it, automatically your virtual machine scale set will work, and you can schedule it. You can schedule it, timing, date and time and all, or repeat it on a specific day. There also you can do it. Start and end date, Tuesday, Wednesday. So this is very much crucial and one of the handy things when you know the trend. Like, for example, if you work for any e-commerce website and they are putting some sale on so and so, like 15th August, 26th Jan, mega sale, big billion day and all. So you can set on a specific day, or you can set the time zone also. Is it clear, RK?
Little bit. Still, there's a confusion.
Okay, please help me. What is the confusion? I'll try my best.
Still exactly not clear about this scaling. Maybe I'm missing something.
I think it's not that complicated. It's the thing is that, let's say you want to extend your it's just like adding external hard disk. We are doing it like whenever you need more GBs, you are adding like, okay, 1 TB, 2 TB, right? So that is, so you can similarly match that with the, so what we are doing in the Azure is we are automatically adding those extra storage. I'm just giving, it's not extra storage, but everything. So that way it helps us to, scale up. So scaling up meaning that adding more storage. I'm talking about in the traditional way, right? So similarly, we are doing that thing in the Azure. So you can scale up to 2 VMs if the performance is bad. If the performance is good, you can scale down to 2 to 1. Let's say throwing up one hard disk, and I need I need only 1 TB, right? Something like that.
There is a one more, tutorial. If you just wanted to, see that what is the difference between skill set, availability set. No, not this one. Actually, what I feel like you're getting confused with the virtual machine and virtual machine scale set. Virtual machine scale set is something this way. You have a one container, one big container, okay? And this, like under this, you will be having virtual machine. And this virtual machine, this is like one virtual machine. We say in short, VM, virtual machine scale set, VMSS. Under that, you will be having these virtual machines like this. And this virtual machine will be identical in nature. This is one VM, VM1. Okay. And again, you will be having another 2 VM. And these will be identical. The size, the configuration of these VMs will be same. Now, suppose you deploy one VM skill set with the initial 2 VMs, VM1 and VM2. Now you're deploying some application on this virtual machine skill set. Two are not sufficient, then you are adding some scale metrics, that how we have added it. On so and so days, I'm going to add 2 more instances. Now, if this is also not sufficient or not sufficing your requirement, then what you can do, you can add some more skill set. I mean, some more instances like this. And at the same time, you should be also creating a kind of scale out policy, which says that, okay, if my CPU utilization come down or lower to 40%, 30%, then remove the unnecessary VMs which were added recently. Or else you can do the manual auto scaling. It means if you know the trend, you can go ahead and add these things. That is called the VM scale set. Now, VM skill set, the use case could be like, if you're using for any large scale deployment. So instead of creating multiple VMs, you can use one VM skill set and create these conditions like this. So you will be optimizing this technology correctly.
So the application runs on VM scale set, is it not on the?
Sorry?
The application runs on the VM scale set.
Right. Application will be here on top.
Yeah.
Application will be here on the scale. Under the need, you will be having these VMs supporting.
Okay. Okay, I got it. My only still my confusion is why we need to have an OS on each VMs. But yeah. We really don't need, we don't use the only, I don't know why we need OS on the VMs though, when we extend, right?
No, OS is needed, right? Or without the OS, even though if you're using serverless computing, in the coming module, we'll talk about serverless. Serverless computing, Azure function, Lambda, in AWS, we have the Lambda. In Azure, we have something called Azure functions. So there also, the VMs will be used in the backend, OS will be used. But in that case, those VMs will be maintained by the Azure or AWS. But in this case, VM skill set, we are the one who are managing end to end. Okay, but compute will be there. Without the compute, application will not play. You need to have some compute storage.
But we don't really use those VMs. I mean, if the application runs on VM scale set, so we worry only the OS on the VM scale set. We don't really bother about what OS is running on these
No,
additional
that will become a serverless computing. That will become a serverless computing. And serverless computing, it means that you will be only bothering about application, not under the net hardware software. But when you deploy the VM skill set, you will be the one who will be managing the instances, the VM, along with all the application which you're going to deploy it.
Okay.
Because see, under this app server, we have the instances. And even though instances, the moment you click, see here, we don't have any public IP, private IP here, right? For the skill set. And we see that when you see instances, and when you go instances, we have the full control here. Here you can see public IP, here you can see private IP, and here you can control the behavior of your virtual machine under that same. Disk also you can add it, sizing also you can do it. So it is part of your this one skill set. And you have a full control of this virtual machine. You want to stop one of them, you can stop it. You have the public IP, you do not need the public IP, remove it.
Okay. Okay. I got it, but only thing is we don't really use those VMs.
Yeah.
In the sense that, like since the app is running on the VMSs, we don't really care. I mean, probably we need to maintain like upgrade the OS now and then or whatever. But other than that, we don't really need to do anything.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Now resizing of this is also can be done like the way we do it for the VM. Configuration is also the same. See here, instance termination. When to enable this instance termination. When to do over provisioning. Host, how many hosts we have it, performance and all that we can change it from here.
Why do we need to do resize on the VMs? We can additionally add a extra VMs, right? Instead of resizing it.
We can, that's what, we have the provision either to update, create this policy, or you feel so, no, I need to change
Just an
it.
option. Okay.
Yeah, this is an optional.
Okay.
Either you take the advantage of this custom auto scale, or you can also come and change the size.
size of the newly added VM, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay. Okay, got it.
Any further questions, doubt, guys? So what all we have covered today? We have covered
One
a
small
lot.
question. What is
Yeah.
the cooldown time?
Cool down time is like, the specific time that if you launch the VM, then a time where it has to wait before it attempt to relaunch again. I mean, initiate again. There's a term called, what we have here is, this is the literal meaning. The amount of time to wait after a scale operation before scaling again. You just go through this. If the cooldown time is 10 minutes, scale just happened. Auto scale will not attempt to scale again after 10 minutes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
So let me summarize it, guys. What all we have done today. We have started with deploying of Linux virtual machine, first of all. Okay, summary. Deployment of Linux. Then we installed Apache on it. We also deploy Windows, WinVM. Then we saw that how to add data disk on it. We also spoke about extensions, and we installed IES using extensions, or say custom script extension. And then we spoke about resizing, use of resizing. And then we talk about scaling, what is scaling, and then we spoke about scale set. And finally, deployment of scale set along with manual and auto scale set. That also we've seen that. These are the summary for today's class. And with this, we will be concluding the day for today. In the next class, we'll talk about security, about how we are going to secure our virtual machine, what all the ways of securing the virtual machine. Okay. Oh. Am I still there, guys?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Thank
I
you.
just stopped it. So before we conclude, any questions?
Yesterday recording was not
Yeah, it's
uploaded.
not there. I'll upload it today and tomorrow's. I mean, yesterday's and today's recording after this.
Okay. So once you are done, please can you please?
I'll confirm in the WhatsApp. Okay, guys.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So you all guys are able to access, right? Recording.
Right. As he suggested, it's a generic error, and we need to download it. I saw, and I'm able to access that recording.
All right, great. If any problem is there, you guys can drop the message in that WhatsApp group only.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, guys, have a nice weekend then. I mean, of course,
you.
weekend is almost over.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you.
care. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.